and welcome to the AstroEnergyAstrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, this is Shelley. If you would like to learn more about astrology, check out Learn Astrology, an ebook digital download online at angeliczodiac.com.
Hi, and welcome to the July 9th, 2021 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I want to thank you for coming today and checking out what I have to say. We've got a new moon coming up this week, and really the Cancer energy is pretty strong in the sky right now, and it's kind of been fairly strong with Venus and Mars having transited through Cancer and just now both in Leo. And we've got Mercury about to move into Cancer this week. So that's going to be another trigger for the Cancer energy. I apologize, my throat is still a bit stressed from a couple weeks ago, and it's coming back slowly but surely. And of course, all the energy that's going on is really affecting my chart in the throat chakra, throat area. I have Pluto in the house of communication. So anyway, let's get on with the podcast, and I can tell you what's going on. I apologize for the pauses. I will be clearing my throat, but I will mute when I do that. And so here we go, right? Well, I'm doing this completely on the Cancer new moon. I'm recording this on Thursday, but since the new moon is just tomorrow and it's going to be at an exact point, I think we may as well just look at what's going on with that for the duration of this podcast because it's fairly close. Currently, the moon is in Cancer. It's just not to the degree it shows on the chart that you see. This chart that you see is exact Cancer moon conjunction, which is probably about here. And they're at 18 degrees. And I did it for the time that they said, but in this, I'm looking at it, and it shows that they're like 1 minute of difference. But basically 9:16, it would probably be 9:16. It says 9:17 in my ephemeris. But okay, there it is. So it's 9:16 and 38 seconds. Anyway, we have a 2-degree Aquarius rising. So what I'm doing, for those of you who are not familiar with doing a reading for an event, an astrological event, the time of the event happens. So in this case, 9:16 p.m. Eastern, July 9th, 2021. It means that the moon and Neptune, I've been thinking a lot about Neptune, can you tell? The moon and sun are joined up at the exact same degree in the sky, which means the sun shines light over the moon and the moon cannot be seen, pretty much. It's at zero. And so zero, not zero. It means that it's exact same degree. My mind's see, this is what happens when you do astrology. You start translating things, and then if you actually listen to yourself, sometimes you're like, oh, no, that's not it. So like a lot of times I'll translate a sign to the planet that rules the sign, things like that. Anyway, so we've got the moment in time that something happens. And so the moment in time, like I said, is 9:16, July 9th. And what happens is it's like a birth chart for the event of a new moon. And so we can kind of see how this new moon will affect us in our lives on that day by looking where all the planets are at the moment that the two meet up. And I can tell you this past week has been an interesting week, mostly because I am the emotional support for my daughter, whose boyfriend has 4 planets in Cancer. His birthday was earlier in the week, like Tuesday, I think, July 6th. And he said a week ago he felt different. He felt like he wanted to be alone. And it really got me thinking about the sign of Cancer a lot, because my mother, he has 4 planets in Cancer, my daughter's guy. And my mother has 4 planets in Cancer and a Cancer rising. And it's always been kind of a point of contention in my relationship with her. And I could probably even get into that a little bit, but I'm going to tell you about Cancer a little bit first. So Cancer is the quintessential mom energy of the zodiac. And that means that they are really, like, what comes out of them in their personality is domesticity, the need to be contained in a home environment, to be kind of cuddled up and protected in the home environment. They look to someone who has a strong structural energy given off of them, or authoritarian energy, which is the opposite sign of Capricorn to Cancer. And so opposites attract a lot in that regard with Cancer, because they need a hard shell around them, because they feel really soft and squishy and very easily hurt or vulnerable. It can make a Cancer person more defensive. It can make them, having Sun in Cancer, any planets in Cancer, make you so super sensitive to other people energetically. So like some of the attributes my mother exhibits are wanting to really be just in the house, very antisocial a lot of the times. So I have a friend that I'm going to be doing some podcasts on. You may have seen the podcast. We've already done one, but we're going to start to do some celebrity podcast astrology. So I'm going to be looking into the Gilmore Girls this week with her, and what we do is we talk about the signs that the character could be, and then the sign of the actual actor. And so it's kind of a lot of fun to really delve deep into some more common TV shows, movies, things like that, celebrities. And so one of the things I do in that show, when I do the podcast, or what I do with the show I'm just dissecting kind of, is I will look for hallmarks of the different signs, because when you interact with people, they have planets in certain positions. And, like I'm just looking at a chart right now, it's got 13 positions, 14 if you include both North and South Node, of indicators that are going on in the sky right now astronomically, that tell a story about how that person's influenced and how their personality is expressed to other people, how the information is processed with regard to, intake of perception. And so when I look at these shows, I look for characteristics of the signs, and some of the characteristics of a Cancer might be wanting to stay home a lot, not really wanting to be social. There's a character in Gilmore Girls, the daughter, named Rory. It's kind of hard to say, R-Y. And she doesn't want to go out. Just went away to college in a new dorm, and they're having a party, and everybody on the floor goes room to room, and she just wants to stay in the room and read, which is kind of a thing that Cancer would do. But also, if Cancer has planets in Gemini, which is likely with Mercury so close to the Sun usually, you may have, like currently we have Mercury in Gemini. That's a reader. That's somebody who likes reading, who likes writing and books, things like that. So that character may very well be a Sun Cancer, and maybe she had Mercury in Gemini. And it seems kind of strange to be assigning a fictitious character a sun sign, but remember, the people who write these shows do have kind of archetypical types of characters in mind, and there are attributes, because we have an astrological system set up in our society and our subconscious as a collective. They can draw on those attributes for the character definition. And so it's fairly common to see attributes that we all have in some capacity, or we have some of those attributes, and they can be assigned to the different signs of the zodiac. So Cancer, their attributes are need for security, a bit antisocial, and at times, my mother has 4 planets there, and she's highly antisocial. My sister is a Cancer rising, antisocial. The energy right now, what I've noticed is it is really antisocial energy, and I'm feeling it myself. The weather's kind of reflecting that, at least on the eastern side of the U.S. We've had a lot of rain for the last week. Um, Interestingly, if you think about it, as the planets transit around the world, there can be imprints of the energy. And I'm noticing that the country really is kind of split into two parts, east and west. And the eastern side of the country tends to react to the Cancer energy right now, and it's getting all the rain, where the western side of the country is reacting to the Leo, getting more drought and heat waves. So we really do have that split between the two sides of the country. And part of that could just come from when it was founded. Of course, well, without getting into a lot of the Native American storyline, which, I'm very sensitive to, when we anglicized, so to speak, this country, we moved from east to west. And so there are founding of uh, metropolis hubs at different times. And so, of course, whatever was going on with Pluto was significant, whatever was going on with Neptune was significant. And even though we made it to the other coast, over 100 years ago, 150, whatever it is, 200, we didn't necessarily settle those cities all at the same time. So there is a discrepancy in how they were founded. So those Pluto positions influence different parts of the country. And this side of the country was influenced more greatly by the Capricorn Pluto, because there were only 13 colonies when Eastern America was really founded with the 13 original colonies. And as we went towards the west, guess what happened? Pluto went into Aquarius. The explorer came out. And so the western half of the US in settlements are probably much more, the older cities are much more Pluto and Aquarius. And so that is the pioneering spirit going west. And, it just really is interesting to see the difference in the weather patterns here in America, and even all the way up into North America. So, like Canada. Anyway, so Cancer really wants to protect itself and protect its sensitivities. And so it may come across as more cold than other signs. And I know my mother has gotten stronger and stronger over the years of cutting off from that emotional, sensitive mothering side. And it was already difficult when I was a young girl. I have Mars in Cancer, so I act in the mother energy on top of having Moon in the first house joined with Neptune in Scorpio. It's very intense mothering energy and very idealized sense of what mothering is all about, which I do for my daughter. We have a very strong mother-daughter bond, like friends. But my mother, her generation had Uranus, the planet of detachment and independence, in the sign of Cancer. So her generation really kind of encapsulates that detachment from the really nurturing mother energy. And currently, we have an opposition to the Cancer energy by the very sign, in the very sign that gives Cancer its security and structure, and that is Pluto in Capricorn, directly having a conflict with later degree Cancers. So that would be pretty much anybody born in the second week of July through the end of Leo, which is around the 21st of July. And so those people are really going to be affected by this Cancer new moon. It's going to be a reset for you. It is personally having the Mars in Cancer and feeling the energy really strongly now with Sun and Moon. It just feels like I'm so exhausted from the battle, which Pluto is kind of an energy of rallying, a rallying cry, a passionate drive and force to change things and to make it better. Again, with a Scorpio rising in my chart and Pluto, literally the closest planet to my sun, I very much understand and express that passionate nature for righteousness and humanitarianism, but it's really about doing the right thing and ethics and morals. And, so when you have Pluto, this righteous energy, this passionate energy in the sign of Capricorn, of course, Pluto's saying, this is the way it needs to be done. We need to shore things up and make it strong and structure. And yet, as it gets to the latter degrees, it's starting to feel the influence of Aquarius even more pronounced because Saturn is at 11 Aquarius right now. And so that Saturn is really diving into the waters, so to speak. It is an air sign, but it is the water bearer, which is ironic, but that's the way it is. So air signs are thinkers and electrical. The sign of Aquarius conducts that energy to the hilt in our consciousness. It really awakens us. And because we have the ruling planet of Aquarius square to it, and it's moved away from each other a bit now, but of course, when Uranus goes retrograde very soon, I think it's like a week out maybe, or the end of July. I'll tell you real quick. Hang on. Yeah, I was just looking at the ephemeris chart for when all the planets are retrograde. In July, we just have Uranus and Mercury direct in mid-August. So it's around the 19th of August, Uranus goes retrograde. And so for all of September, and even the last 4 or 5 days of September, including Mercury, that's when Mercury goes retrograde the second time this year in Libra, every planet will be retrograde for a period of a week. And so the last week of September, the first week of October, do not expect to get anything done because we are renovating, redoing, and reworking everything that week. That is the time of pause. My guess is because of all the retrogrades and including Mercury, which, as we've said, was retrograde in Pisces last year as COVID was ramping up. The retrograde Mercury in Libra being the last planet in the sky that is retrograde for all of them. Of course, Sun and Moon never go retrograde, but every other planet. Let me double check that. I'm sitting here saying every other planet. For me, when I say every other planet, it's pretty much the ones that go retrograde every year. That means Venus and Mars are not retrograde, but that means also probably, Venus goes retrograde in December. Mars, I think, is due for a retrograde next year. But every other planet is retrograde. So let's put it this way. With the exception of Venus and Mars, every other planet is retrograde that can go retrograde. And so that is a very, very strong time of, really reviewing, but also frustration probably with the resistance that things are not going forward. Venus and Mars want to move forward, especially in Libra timeline, October. But every other planet is saying, no, that's not the message you need to be getting right now. And so we'll revisit that, of course, because what else will we be doing during that time but revisiting? It's about to rain. I'm probably getting darker, but fortunately, it was a really good sensitivity on my camera. I even noticed it's got a ring light on it. I never noticed that before. Very, very fine, like very two little lines on either side, but yet there it is. Anyway, thankfully, there's enough ambient light that it lights me up. So the new moon, because not only is it in Cancer, but we've had Sun in Cancer, we've had Venus recently in Cancer, we've already experienced this depth of angst, and this ennui is kind of an energy, I think, that a little bit describes it. This, like, I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm feeling out of sorts. I don't really know what's going on. What's going on is the Sun and the Moon are moving into opposition with Pluto. We've had Saturn squaring Uranus, and then Saturn opposing Mars this week, and now opposing Venus recently as well. So now yesterday we had a square between Venus and Uranus, which means there is a certain amount of detachment, but also a story about understanding the truth of where we're heading with regard to our love life, especially now that Venus is very close to joining up with Mars. Those two have kind of had an out. They've been on the outs, so to speak, most of this year because they've been squaring to each other or in conjunct. Nothing very pleasant. There was a brief sextile period, but now they are coming together. And what this means, and I've got chills while I tell you this, is Venus and Mars coming together as a coupling mean we want that romance. We want to connect to someone who is our friend, to someone who is creative, who is like-minded. We want to relate. I get this because I'm like you. That's the kind of relating we're looking to do. Hang on. Okay, well, if you are familiar with giving readings, you'll know that when things happen, everything happens for a reason. And I was just having a throat moment there, a little choked up in my throat from my laryngitis. Anyway, that can also mean that we're having a tough time expressing our truth. And that's also part of the problem is Uranus in Taurus, and that will be squaring, or did just square the Venus, but will be interacting with Mercury. Mercury goes into Cancer, and when Mercury gets to about 14 degrees of Cancer, it'll be like, now we're going to communicate. And part of the reason is the communication aspect. Mercury rules communication. I will tell you the story in Knockwood, which right now is paper, that nothing happens because Mercury keeps a very tight clamp down on me because technology-wise, I have so much influence of Mercury in my chart. Okay, so last night I was watching Netflix, and my Netflix froze, and I'm like, what the heck happened? Like, I couldn't escape it on the keyboard. I couldn't escape. I couldn't force quit. I couldn't do anything. And so I'm like, okay, this is significant. Why is this going on? And I looked at the chart, and you would not believe, I posted this on my Angelic Zodiac Instagram. Moon and Mercury were exactly conjunct, not only to the degree, but the minute. They were exactly conjunct when that happened to me. So they were at, I think, 14:11 or 14:18, something like, both of them, exact same degree, exact same minute. So that just drove home to me the power of these conjunctions, especially right now in the sky. And I will also say that currently Mercury is in conjunct to Pluto. So, of course, there is a really strong disconnect, disagreement between the energy of communicating a truth, and the two work together. Like, Mercury tells what it sees, tells what it's feeling, tells what it thinks. It's a communicator. Pluto finds out the goods on what's going on behind the scenes. It has a mystery. In Capricorn, it's about government, it's about authority figures, authoritarianism. This is why I do believe we see a lot of that kind of authoritarian rise to power right now. And we just had the Haitian president assassinated this week, which was pretty significant. Whenever assassinations happen, that's a very strong expression of this type of energy. So, of course, Mercury, and that was actually at exactly in conjunct Mercury to Pluto at 25 degrees. So you know that there's something going on in the heavens when these things happen. And currently Mercury 27, Pluto 25, still feeling it, but having the energy transition from Mercury to Cancer brings Mercury into an opposition energy to Pluto and perfects in about 30 days. It takes about a day, a degree, for Mercury to transition through, or transit through the zodiac. And so as we see this opposition, this will be a very significant time. And I want to say at that in degree, when Mercury gets to late Cancer, and there's a Cancer sun again next month, that will be opposed to Pluto. This is highly significant, especially for authority figures and systems, and feeling a sense of home and connectedness to the domestic safety. So I expect that to happen, like I said, in about a month. And I mean, I haven't researched that, but let's just see that. So we're at 8 July. So let's see what happens in early August, because I know they will be. Oh, and there will be an opposition of Venus to Neptune in August as well. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize this Mercury is actually going to go quicker through Cancer. He's only going to be a couple weeks. I forgot he's going so fast at this time. So he's going to zap in and then zap out. The 25th, there will be an opposition of Mercury to Pluto, which probably means, yeah, the moon approaching Mercury, approaching Pluto, will be in Aquarius. Oh, no. Let me see. Cancer is right now. No, it's going to be, the full moon's going to be in Aquarius in a couple weeks. And then I guess Mercury opposes Pluto on the 25th. So I was thinking there may be even another moon aspect to that coming up. But Mercury moves into Leo on the 27th of July. I keep forgetting it goes so fast. And wow. Yeah, that's going to be kind of a strong personal day for me. And then the first is when Mercury in Leo opposes Saturn. So yeah, Mercury will oppose Pluto on the 25th. So I guess we're going to get that energy then as well. But it's just a really strong month of information coming out, and how do we process it? How do we express it in our voices? And keep in mind, Taurus, Uranus, very slow transit of Uranus. It takes like 7 or 8 years to go through a sign, and maybe even a little longer at times, because remember, these orbits from our perspective are not perfect circles. They are elongated. So they don't necessarily go around the Earth in exact timelines in the sky, because we're seeing them go around the sun. Okay. So yeah, so the rest of Cancer, the new moon in Cancer, initiating a new home environment, initiating communication with people around the home, and really the theme is going to be security. It's going to be what's going on at home, because America is a Cancer country. It is also including for us in America a significant time as a Cancer country, that this is the first new moon after 4th of July, after our birthday, and the solar return. So it's going to be a really interesting time because the moon's last planet connection was Mercury. It is information around the country, information that directly pertains to the country. And I would also venture to say it directly relates to Donald Trump, because he's got a Mercury-ruled sun in Gemini. He also has late planets, and I think I was looking at those. This last opposition of Mercury to Pluto, Mercury to Saturn, and then also the opposition on the 25th is very strongly going to affect Trump's chart. And we may even revisit that in a show 2 weeks from now. Probably will be that. And then, because it's going to be a really strong energy hitting him from major planets and oppositions, not only in the sky, but oppositions to his natal planets. I know Pluto is in conjunct right now to his natal Pluto. Anyway, so the Cancer energy, I guess, really, okay. So what I really want to say is that the Cancer energy has increased the sense of needing to withdraw from social interests right now. And we really want to just move inward, take care of ourselves, feel what we feel, not be bothered by other people interacting with that sense of structure, that sense of security and connectedness we have to our emotions. And so look for that very strongly. And then the new moon, meaning there is a rebirth of our emotional life, our ego, our sense of self, how we see the home environment, how we see the things that we put in our environment to support us, the people that are in our environment. Do we get along? Is it a comfortable situation? How do we feel around what we go to every night as we come home? Of course, with Venus, Mars in Leo, that brings in the aspect of children. We've seen a lot of stuff going on with children lately. And even if it's not children directly, it's childlike energy, it's playfulness, it's a sense of irreverence. And believe it or not, Cancer does have a sense of humor. And especially if there's a Sagittarian influence with the Cancer. I personally have Mars and Cancer in the Sagittarius house, and my family overall, Cancer is one of the signs that thread through the charts of my family. Virgo is one of the signs, and Sagittarius for me personally, not necessarily my parents, but definitely me personally, and Gemini. And so the Mars in Sagittarius's house, the ninth house, can bring that sense of whimsy and sense of humor. And I just think about both my grandfathers being really irreverent men, and my actual father, my dad's father, he was a Capricorn, tall, lean, and had kind of a little mischievous, sneaky sense of humor that kind of snuck up on you, a little dry. Dry is a hallmark of Capricorn, but a really, really solid, good guy. And then my mom's dad was a Pisces, and he was just raring to go. He didn't stop. He had a girlfriend in his 90s, and he traveled all over the country on a bus with his girlfriend after my grandmother died. He had a girlfriend until he passed away at 94. So really amazing senses of humor. But that Mars in Sagittarius can bring it. Or Sagittarius is a really great sign for humor, and for women comedians, believe it or not. And then men, Sagittarius kind of comes out with musicians. Anyway, getting back, I think I say anyway all the time now, transitions. So the moon and sun in Cancer, it is the time of home and growing things, of nurturing the emotions. And, the rain's coming in right now. It could be a sad time. We've got 7 degrees till the sun and the moon are in opposition to Pluto. And so it is a transition time for authorities. I think we're seeing this, all the power planets, kind of Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, are on the other side of the sky in Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn. And now currently we've got Mercury in conjunct to Pluto, in trine to Saturn, and about to move into trine to Jupiter. We've got the conjunction of moon and sun in opposition to Pluto very soon. We've got a trine going on between Neptune and the moon sun conjunction. So that is also a very big energy, especially if you're a Scorpio, man. You're definitely feeling this because you're balancing out that grand trine. If you have planets in late Scorpio about to be Sagittarius, so like November 15th through the 22nd, you're going to be feeling this energy really pointedly. And I've got my conjunction in the middle parts of Scorpio, but that definitely also hits my my first house. So the trine for Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, you're going to be feeling this energy in overwhelming amounts of emotion, flooding, sentimentality. I'm looking out literally at pouring rain. I'll show you this. Can you see the pouring rain coming down? So anyway, so yeah, the water signs, really strong energy for this week. The sun's going to be in Cancer until around the 20th of July. I'll just look that up. I almost don't have enough light here to see. Thank goodness the computer is lighting it up. Sun enters Leo on the 22nd this year, 10:26 a.m. And there's an inconjunct of Mars to Pluto right before the sun enters Leo. That's going to be interesting. So you know that there's going to be a lot of bravado next week, a lot of hyperbole, a lot of drama, a lot of leadership drama. Look for that. Look for puffery, puffing up the chest, saying, I'm in charge. This is my domain. You have to listen to me. So we're going to be expecting that next week. And then I'm just going to try and wrap this up because, my voice is going to be a little bit worse for wear the longer I go on. So Jupiter is in Pisces. Let's see. Let's just look for the week. I had a few notes for what's going on with the rest of the week. New moon. Make your plans for what you envision your home existence, your home environment, the look of it, what items you have there, what people you populate in, what friendships, how you behave to family members is very strong. I want to say if your son's in Cancer, you feel very protective of your sense of self. If your moon is in Cancer, you're protective of your home and your domain. My mother is always very protective of her kitchen. If you have Mercury in Cancer, you protect your words. You may not talk as much. You are more emotive, kind of like Mercury in Pisces. If you have Mars in Cancer, you can withdraw if you're angry, and chances are you might have more irritability in the home environment, and then things around the house that aren't done quite just right irritate you, because remember, Cancer is also the sign of cleaning and domestic things, doing the dishes, doing the laundry, cooking. And my mother has that strong energy around wanting things neat, fastidious, and tidy in the kitchen specifically. And like, you just don't mess things up. The way I grew up. And then let's see what else. So Jupiter in Cancer expands the energy. Like, that's where you're going to want to learn more about the home and cleaning and cooking and sewing. It's where you expand the energy of domesticity and also learning and growth. Saturn in Cancer is going to put wherever your Saturn in Cancer is. It could be up in Capricorn house, and I know somebody with Capricorn house Saturn, which means you include the domestic agenda or that mothering energy and fastidiousness in the work environment, in your career environment. And it could mean you make a career out of being a chef. You clean houses for a living. You sew, you're a seamstress, you're a tailor, things like that. It's so funny when I talk about sewing. I just go right back to middle school, where I was like 8th grade and also 9th grade. I took home ec, and I got to make clothes for class, and that was just one of my joys. I love doing that. Anyway, and then we've got Uranus. Uranus in Cancer would be detachment from family. It may mean you don't even want kids. It may mean you just don't get along with your mom, or you're not really a good mom because it's just kind of like I don't want kids, that kind of feeling. Or you also may not have a sense of belonging to any one family. You might have been adopted, or you may adopt. And then let's see, that leaves Neptune. Neptune Cancer means you're like over the top, immersed in Cancer energy. You worry a lot about people like you mother them. Everything is completely immersed in the Cancer energy. And it can also mean that you would hoard, because Pisces and Neptune are the collectors, and Cancer mean you collect around the home. So that could be the energy of a hoarder, depending on where that falls in your chart. And that includes 12th house Cancer. If you're a Leo rising and you have a 12th house Cancer, you may hoard things because you feel safer that way with things around you. You nest with your possessions. And then finally, Pluto in Cancer, which is very long ago, 140 years ago. Nobody we know living today has Pluto in Cancer. But it is the energy that makes you defend, makes you fight and rally for your turf, for your territory, for your homeland and your home. And that is right about the time of the Civil War. So that kind of gives you an idea of that energy of Pluto, passionate about your way of doing life, your way of being at home. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up the energy coming up. Let me just look real quick to make sure I've got all the rest of the week that I wanted to talk to. Friday and Saturday are going to be really connected into the home. That's the new moon energy, but then we also have moon moving into Leo, which is children. We have a trine to Neptune, watery, rainy. It's just going to be flooding. I have a road leading out of my subdivision that the water comes from both sides and meets in the middle, and you cannot go through either side. You have to drive down the middle of the road. And now Mercury going into Cancer on Sunday. So really Friday, Saturday, Sunday, strong Cancer. And then, of course, having Mercury there until the 25th, it's going to be a really, really potent energy around security. It may even bring out security issues for the country. This will also affect England. If you live in England, I mean, congratulations. They just got to the finals for I think the Euro Cup or whatever it is. I'm sorry, I don't follow soccer/football, but really, really potent energy they're playing this weekend. So it would not surprise me at all. Depending on what time they start, I'm guessing it's going to be like, wow, yeah, Mercury's at last degrees of Gemini, which is duality. If it starts, I don't know when it's going to start, but if it starts late at night or later at night, it could be really good because Mercury is in Cancer. But if it starts in Gemini, it's duality. It's going to be like an equal battle for both because it's the twins. They're both going to go at it. So it could be, a close tie. I wouldn't even be surprised if the game ends in a tie. I don't know if they can even do that in a championship. But if it gets close to the end and it stays at that same one-on-one, and my guess if it's played later in the day when Mercury changes to Cancer, England has the upper hand with that. I got chills for that because of the Cancer moon, and they won under a Cancer moon. So Cancer Mercury can be very good. If it is tied and it goes into overtime and then they pull it out late in the day, probably going to be England. So that's my prediction. We'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see how that all works out. But yeah. Anyway, so we got that. Monday, weather. Look for weather to be an issue still. Mercury trining Jupiter and Pisces. Expansion of weather. This is also expansion of the Delta virus, and that's kind of the main one that we've been all hearing about all over in England and Europe. It's in America now. And then Tuesday is a conjunction of Venus and Mars. So that I am holding strong what is the word? I can't even speak. Optimism, words. Optimism for good things coming from meeting someone under that Venus-Mars conjunction. If you meet anybody coming up this week, they mean a great deal to you because of that connection. And I would say anybody in the last month and a half with Mars and Venus transiting through Cancer and then into Leo, and now we're going to have the Sun and Moon in Leo, and eventually Mercury in Leo at the end of the month. It's about family, children, and romance. So it's really a nice energy. The only exception is potentially when you get to later degrees, the 23rd degree of Leo, you have an inconjunct to Neptune. So there's a struggle going on then. And maybe we can revisit that when I talk next week, because both those planets are going to be a little bit further along. I don't know if they'll be even approaching. It'll be right at 23, which is the inconjunct. And that's going to be like the feelings are there, but the action may be restricted somehow because they're not matching up. And it's a really frustrating energy, not going to lie, but maybe by the time Jupiter comes back and hits Neptune, then things can move forward. But there's something emotionally holding us back, and Jupiter retrograde in Pisces and also Neptune retrograde in Pisces. It's kind of like, no, I'm holding my sensitivities close to my chest. I'm not giving it away. So anyway, we'll revisit that then. And so that's Tuesday when the two join up. And then Wednesday, we're going to have Virgo planet. So Virgo's going to be in conjunct Saturn, in conjunct Chiron, and trining to Uranus. That all happens before 6:25 in the morning. And so that's going to be good that it's while we sleep here, but it's going to be on the other side of the world. So a little frustrating on the other side of the world. And I don't know if you're frustrated with this. I really want to know world news. And I just don't feel like I get the world news from common news sources here in America. So maybe I'll just do world news on the BBC. I feel like I don't hear anything of Australian news unless it's really, really significant, like massive fires or some kind of mass murder. It's like you just don't get news from the other half of the world, not the south half, but the western hemisphere, or the eastern hemisphere, eastern hemisphere. Anyway, and then finally, Thursday next week, Chiron retrogrades. Chiron, where is Chiron right now? I haven't even been looking. Oh, come on, you always show Chiron. Why aren't you showing Chiron? Okay, give me a second, and I'll tell you where Chiron is. I think it's in Aries. That's where it is. Aries. Is it showing? It's not showing, but I know it's in Aries. So Chiron in Aries, it's the wounding. It's the wounding around the masculine, around emergencies, emergency vehicles. So when that goes retrograde on Thursday of next week, that's when probably much more information about the building in Miami going down, where it's going to be the emergency of that. We're going to find out more information about that particular event, because now Chiron, the wounding around emergencies, and the people who are first responders, the police, Black Lives Matter, all of that, any kind of aggression, any kind of, we're just talking martial arts, carpentry, male energy, aggression, knives, guns, all of that. It's fire energy. It's all under Aries. It's pushing to get something done. And then as Chiron retrogrades, we have to go back over these issues that have wounded us. And that's what that's all about. So we're going to feel that deep wounding. It's the George Floyd wounding. It's, all of it. Trayvon Martin, so many people in the BLM movement and the BLM, just in Black lives who have been wounded and hurt, and the storylines. So that's going to probably kick off late next week, and then we'll have much more of that coming in. Okay. I don't really particularly like to predict dark things, but I know I have for a long time, but getting more into the law of attraction, you have to really face what kind of energy you put out into the world. And I really want a better world. So I really want to focus on, okay, if you can't focus on positive, try and bring up what in the negative situation, why it might benefit you. And hopefully that can help you. So yeah, do your new moon grids, crystal grids, power grids, new moon rituals, whatever it is you do. Use water. It'd be great to do some type of crystal water new moon ritual. Drink it, maybe crystallize your water, as long as it's not one that dissolves, which would be calcite, quartz. I'm not sure if quartz dissolves in water, but generally the clear ones, I don't even know if I have one here. But the clearer crystals tend to be more susceptible to dissolving in water. Don't do that unless you've researched it. But yeah, anyway, I really do appreciate you showing up. Please share the podcast. Give me feedback on Instagram, Angelic Zodiac. Visit my website, and I'll see you later. See you next week. Take care. Bye.
Well, check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.